Hello. Well, I never thought that I would see this day coming. We have a puppy. A dub dog, you might say. But I need your help. I know a lot about campervans, but I don't know an awful lot about campervans and dogs, so I need your advice. If things aren't done right, you can actually get £5,000 fine and 9 points on your license, and I want to make sure that I'm certainly not going to be getting that. And also in this video I'm going to be discussing why I need a new van, or I think I need a new van, or should I say I want a new van. And don't worry, I'm going to give you a proper introduction to Lottie. Anyway, first, before I lead on to other things, the scary statistic that 29% of van drivers don't safely restrain the dogs whilst they're travelling in a van, meaning they are risking up to a £5,000 fine and possibly 9 penalty points on the licence. But actually more serious than the fine or the penalty points you could get on your licence is the potential of harm coming to your dog or causing an accident whilst you're driving. A distraction caused whilst you're driving your vehicle may lead to an accident, and you certainly don't want to be having an accident. Obviously, serious harm could come to you, your passengers, and your dog, especially if your crash tested bed hasn't actually been crash tested. But do see my other video which I did on that. It isn't difficult to ensure that your dog is restrained within the vehicle, and there's numerous ways of doing this, and this is something which I hope you can help me on, because yeah, I know the ways which you can do the carriers and the crates and the cages and the harnesses, etc. But what do you use? I want to know what you use, what advice you can actually give to me. But it isn't just pets that need to be safely carried within your vehicle. As I have actually touched on before, carrying an unsecure load in your vehicle can again lead to fine and potentially penalty points. With campervans, this is a really common occurrence, with a lot of people just cramming as much things as they can as possible in the back of the van. It is a very limited space, and people just try and find anywhere where they can put things, and not doing this very thoughtfully or carefully could lead to, well, yeah, it could lead to a fine, but more serious, it could lead to a serious accident. One of the best ones which was highlighted to me was the knives which you put on the magnets. So that's a really good idea, isn't it? In your home kitchen, you've got your knives and you stick them to the magnets, and they're fine, they're there when you need them. But in a camper van, if you're doing that in your kitchen, behind the driver's seat, and you slam on your brakes, you come to a sudden stop, you have an accident or something like that, it just doesn't bear thinking about, doesn't it? But it isn't really just knives. That is kind of a far-fetched. It's not something I've actually seen myself. Somebody just mentioned it to me. But people do put heavy items on there. Things like the power stations, obviously not the big ones which I've got, but you know, some of the smaller, more portable ones. And in the event of an accident, slamming on your brakes, coming to a sudden stop, that's quite a big weight to be flying forward. Don't do it. You shouldn't be travelling around with those big items on there. If you do have to put things on that kitchen work surface, make sure it's something soft, something light. You know, I don't really want to give any examples, because even a pillowcase could fly forward and cause a big distraction. They need to be secured. They need to be restrained in that particular area, so it isn't going to cause a distraction to the driver should anything happen. Like, as we say, that accident and everything does fly forward. It's not going to be a pretty sight if something hits the driver. It's not just limited to the item to the work surface though. Rock and roll beds do only leave a very small amount of space behind them, between either the barn doors or the tailgate you've got. It's a minimal amount of space, whereas, if we've mentioned before, the rib bed does give a bigger storage area. So whatever sort of bed you've got, it might mean that you have to put things in between the driver's seat and the passenger seat. Now, if these items are not secured, then not only is it potentially actually an offence and you could be penalised for that, but it could also be a potential missile in the event of something happening. That sudden impact, that big heavy item which you've got, trajectile in one way or another, whatever actually happens, could hit one of the occupants. It's not a good idea to do. It needs to be secured with inside that vehicle. Get some straps and make sure that these things are strapped in. I've seen lots of pictures where people have utilised things as that. The bungee cords, you've got tie downs in the van, yet some conversions do get rid of them, but there's other places which you can use. There are some significant weights to some of the items which you're carrying in your van. I've already mentioned the power stations, yet not everybody's got one of those. But paddle boards, awnings, things such as that, they are quite heavy items. So one of them, your van coming to a sudden stop, secure it. Definitely secure it. But onto a much more positive subject. So meet Lottie. Lottie is a 10-week-old toy cockapoo, and she is going to be coming on lots of van life adventures with us. She's already got a bit of an appetite for water. We did give her a bit of a bath because, yeah, she has been getting a little bit dirty in the garden. She can't go out on walks yet, but I can't wait to be able to do that. It is actually going to be later this week, but hopefully she's going to be coming out. She's going to be enjoying the beaches and the things such as that. She'll be going on the paddleboard, and hopefully, maybe, might be able to get a sit-on kayak, one of those proper plastic ones that I mentioned in my, I think it was my toys video for the motorhome and caravan show. That I actually want one of those because on the rocky beaches in and around the North Cornwall coastline, I really don't want the paddleboard which we've got snagging, so that would be perfect. But yeah, I mean, she's absolutely beautiful. She's obviously in the early stages of training, which is a challenge, as you can imagine. But yeah, it's she's been a joy. I've wanted a dog for a long time, and yeah, so here she is. But this is the reason why I need your help. Now, obviously, I know how to travel in my van, and I know how to travel safely. I know how the occupants within the vehicle are going to be kept as safe as possible. But what I'm not used to is having a pet, having an animal inside the vehicle. So this is where I want your help. Let me just take her back in there. I'll be back in a second. So what do you need to be safe and drive to make sure that you don't get that fine or the penalty points on your license? Let's look at a few different options, but first let's actually look what the problem is. Rule 57 of the Highway Code states that pets must be suitably restrained so they cannot distract you whilst you are driving or injure you or themselves if you stop quickly. The punishment for failing to secure a dog safely can range from up to £1,000 for driving without proper control, but can be stepped up to £5,000 and 9 penalty points for careless driving. There are various different options to ensure that your dog is transported safely. As I've mentioned, you've got the pet carriers, the cages, the harnesses, but I want to know what you like, what you use, what can you recommend? Now, we've all got different types of vans. Some of us have got Kombis, some of us have got full campervan conversions. So I want to know, for either of them, what have you got? Because I know a few people who just use a harness, which is nice, quick and easy, and obviously quite cheap. I've also known people who've got, generally in the Kombi, and they've got a cage. I think it's trans canine cages, which are, I won't say expensive because they probably value for money. In fact, actually, I know a few people have got those, but all those have got working dogs who actually work in specialist industries. But I've also known people who've got cages who just take the Labradors out. So what have you got? What works best for you? And if you've got a camper van, it might not be as easy to have that cage which is fitted in your van. So what have you got? Plus also, what are some good things to buy? Now, you might have seen my Black Friday week video, although you probably didn't, not many of you did. But as you noticed, I mentioned that the Nebo torch, which I've got, and this actually has been really good when Lottie needs the toilet in the middle of the night, because yes, I have been waking up because we don't want to be having any accidents. Then this is an ideal thing to be using to ensure that I can see actually what's going on. And I got the Stan socks, which I've not opened yet, but I can tell these are going to be really comfy for when we're going on our walks. And the other item, which I mentioned, again, not using, but I'm just doing this just to show that I'm not just talking about these things, I am either owning them or I am actually buying them. And that's the Collapse water container. And the reason I got this is so I've got plenty of water whilst I'm out and about. I want to be making sure that she's got plenty of drinking water, so obviously that's going to be carrying quite a lot. And the other thing which I mentioned was a shower, but as I'm thinking about potentially changing my van, but got to keep that one quiet, then actually getting the shower as a standalone unit might really not to be my benefit. If I do get a van, a camper van with a full conversion, then I might not be needing that. But what products have you got for your dog, for your dog? What do you use? What can you recommend to me? Please let me know in the comments what I should be buying, what I should be looking for. Because one thing which I am really interested in, and that is a robe. Now, I've obviously got my dry robe. I've also got the passenger robe as well. I do like the dry robe. It's a very, very waterproof robe, and the water just drips off. I've actually got the short sleeve one. I tend to use that as a changing robe in summer, but I've also got the passenger one, which is actually a lot more comfortable inside. It's bigger, it's long sleeve, and I tend to use that in the winter when I want that bit more warmth. But they do have dog robes, don't they? And I've seen these, and I want to know what you think. Have you got them? Because I know a lot of people have, but I've never actually spoken to anybody to see what they think of them. But I saw at the motorhome and the caravan show that there was the harbour hounds, and they've got the towels. So I am looking at those as well, because I think that'd be ideal, kind of when you come off the beach, and then you'll be able to kind of like get them dry and nice and snuggly and warm. And I think the dry robe's got a slightly different purpose. But then there's also another company called Dog Dryrobes. I just don't know, and this is why I'm now asking you. I help you as much as I possibly can as far as camper vans are concerned, but now please help me as far as dogs are concerned. I really, really would appreciate it. But why do I think I need a new van, or why do I want a new van? Well, there's a couple of reasons actually, and one is I've got the halo roof in my van, because my van, if you don't know, is a Kombi van. It's a factory Kombi, not one of these Kombi van when it's not actually a Kombi. It was a panel van converted. It's a factory Kombi van, and I put the halo roof in it. Video probably about 2 years ago now. Roof, which I really like, and it just seems a little bit sacrilege really to kind of put a pop top in that when I've actually already got that. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get to here. I want a pop top, but it seems to be a bit rude to be taking away that halo roof which I've got. So I don't really want to put a pop top in my van, but I want the pop top. But that's just the first reason. And another reason is I think I want a camper van now. Now I've got a Kombi, and I've got a toilet in there, and I've got all the removable cooking equipment, and I've got the I've actually got a very good electrical system in there, but I've also got the power station as well. I've got the solo stove, which is obviously my fire pit, which I can cook on as well. That video is coming soon. I'm not filmed it yet because it will not stop raining, so it's not ideal. But I do actually fancy having a camper van, so I can be out and about, because I do use my vehicle as a daily driver. When I'm out and about, I can stop and I can just flick on the kettle or coffee machine or whatever it may be, pull over at the side of the road, get the table out, do a little bit of work. Obviously have the dog cage, harness, whatever you recommend, because I am listening to you. I genuinely am going to be listening, taking on board whatever you're going to say. And I can just work from the van. I've got a toilet inside the van if I need it. And I just fancy having that camper van so we can go for away on weekends, a little bit more adventures, exploring a bit more of the coastline, more than we already have. And the third reason is the colour. And don't get me wrong, I'm not wanting one colour over another. It's more of a practicality point of view. Now my van is black, and I've got the full 4-stage insulation, the sound deadening, the thermo liner, the insulation material, and then the carpet on top of that. So it's pretty much got the best you can possibly get, and that includes the actual ceiling of it as well, or the roof as well. So it really is very, very well insulated, but it's still a black box. So inside in the summer, it can get rather warm. And now we've got Lottie, it's a bit more of a concern that we want that temperature to be kept as a nice temperature as it possibly can, rather than getting in that van in summer and it being really, really warm. Obviously a pop top is going to benefit that, because it can obviously raise that pop top up, and heat does rise, so that will help as well. So those are my reasons for wanting a new van. I think it's time now to have a new van. I've kind of taken my van as far as I can, and I want to start in on the new adventures. But don't worry, when I do sell my van, it isn't going to be a ridiculous price like some of the ones which I've seen at the moment. oh my word, where are these people getting those prices from? Well, actually, I know where they are getting the prices from, and that's because they paid way, way over the top to start with. These vans are being listed at really high prices, and I can understand why people are doing them, but I'm going to explain to you next week why they're doing that and why you shouldn't really be getting angry at them for listing them at these crazy prices, because actually somebody will pay it, because yes, they paid it in the first place. But what van am I going to go for next? Maybe I'll get me inspiration from the best camper vans I saw at the Motorhome and Caravan show. And if you didn't see that, you can see that here. For now, take care. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you soon.